My mom said that when she left the hospital, that she went home and he took off to the job site with me and climbed up the ladder and showed me to all the guys. And that was day one for me. I can count on more than both hands how many times I've fell off a roof and just climbed right back up the ladder and kept working. The reason I sound like the crazy person is because I'm doing things differently than everybody out there. We look like the odd person because nobody is doing the right thing.
All right, everybody, welcome back to The Long Game. I think there are two different types of contractors that we see in our industry. I mean, not just our industry, kind of any home service industry, but one who builds trust with homeowners, who takes care of them, and one who exploits homeowners. And I think the problem today is that from the outside looking in, they kind of look the same. The ability today to create a website, to make it look professional, to have sales training and kind of spoof tactics to convince homeowners that you're a legitimate company are so easy to do today. So I wanted to bring on Luke from Skywalker Roofing to help talk about how he runs his business and help kind of homeowners and really contractors separate those two between high quality contractors that care about customers and these unscrupulous folks who we as IHS have created an entire mission to rid the world of. So with that, I want to welcome Luke Wilson with Skywalker Roofing. What's up, Luke?
Thank you, Josh. I'm excited to be here today. It's a great day. There's no better day than to get to hang out with Josh Sparks and talk about roofing and people. So let's go.
That's awesome. You know, we've got 25 brands now, but I tell you, when I met you, Luke, I'm like, man, this is a Southern hospitality, wonderful human being who generally cares about not only his business, but his employees, his customers, his community. And I knew you were a fit right away. So I'll let you tell your story about maybe how you got started briefly and kind of got into the business. But then I found out you were a goddamn MMA fighter. I'm like, how the hell is this guy? You punching people in the face. I could never see this happening. So anyhow, Luke, tell a little bit of your story. How'd you get into roofing? And I'd love to hear a little bit about the MMA side as well.
Okay. Well, yeah. So it all started in 1976, and I know I don't look like I'm that old, but for those of you who can't see it though, this was my baby announcement, and I don't know if I've ever even showed this to you, Josh. Do
I
you
haven't
see
seen
that?
that. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, and it just says Wilson Roofing Company. It's what my parents put out. Wilson Roofing Company announces the newest piece of equipment added to our company. Weight 8 pounds, 5 3/4 ounces. Arrived August 15th, 1976. COD, cherished on delivery. And it goes on. I mean, like, this was my baby announcement of me climbing up a roof, and I was the new piece of equipment. So I didn't have a choice, Josh. There was no choice for me. And my mom said that when she left the hospital, that she went home and he took off to the job site with me and climbed up the ladder and showed me to all the guys. And so that was day one for me. I grew up on a farm, so I watched my dad. He worked hard all day. He'd come home, he'd work on the farm, and hard work is all he knew. I mean, that's what I loved about my dad, is like, I want to be able to work like my dad does. And it's so every day I'd go out and I'd want to work and I'd want to do what he does. And I learned a lot from him, in the process. And as I got older, college was an option for me, but I didn't go that direction. I think I went to community college for like 3 months. And I said, man, I cannot sit behind another desk. I've got to go out and do something. And so I went to work with him on the roof, and that was an adventure in itself. So, like I said, my dad was a hard worker, so I knew how to treat people right and work hard. But then, go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I was going to say, so I knew the farming part, but so your dad was a farmer, but then he got into roofing, or how did that work? Did he
Oh,
actually
no,
work the field?
no. So we roofed all day and farmed in the evening. Yeah, we come home.
Oh,
Yeah, we
shit.
ran a farm, and so we raised tobacco and cows, and so yeah, he would roof all day and then come home and work the farm in the evening. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah, roofer by
Unbelievable.
trade.
Well, so did you join the business right out of high school essentially, or?
I started at summers of high school, and then right out of high school, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible. So tell me about the beginning of that. So obviously you're bred hard worker. You get into the roofing business. You weren't in the sales side, right? Or did you start seeing kind of what other contractors were doing out there?
There was no sales at that time. I didn't even know what sales was. I mean, yeah, I carried shingles up a ladder all day just so they could nail them on in the beginning. That's what we did. And all I wanted to do was get to the point where I was the guy nailing them instead of carrying them. Um,
Were
really.
you were hand nailing back in the day,
Sure.
weren't you?
Oh yeah. And I carried them all up a ladder, 2 stories and running up scaffolding, it was, yeah, it was entertaining for sure.
Tell me about your fall protection back then.
So I can count like on more than both hands how many times I've fell off a roof and just climbed right back up the ladder and kept working. So yes, there was no such thing as fall protection. I still remember doing a McDonald's standing seam roof, and my dad rigged up vice grips and a 2x4, and I'm standing on the 2x4, and we're working, and the vice grip slipped, and I fall about 10 feet into the bushes. We put the vice grips back up. We just keep working. It falls down. I go back into the bushes. So yeah, that was our story.
That's crazy. I remember, yeah, when I was roofing back in the day, I didn't want to spend $100 on a harness. I didn't have the money. I'm like, and I was also 19. I thought I had rubber bones. I'm like, I could just fall off this roof and get back up, which I did most of the time. Eventually, it shifted, right? I didn't mind putting my own health, life at risk for the money I was making on the roof, but it's crazy. About like 10 years after I started my business, I was running a business. I think I had 2 crews at the time. And I saw one of our competitors in Wisconsin climbing a 2-story, a 2.5-story, maybe wooden, like a crappy, shitty wooden ladder. And the kid was maybe 19 years old, working for some company, no harness, no nothing, ladder not tied off. And I'm like, man, what a piece of shit owner of that business, not taking care of his employees. That 19-year-old kid didn't know what he was doing. He's working for somebody else. So that mentality and your own, I guess your own livelihood and those are the people you employ changed for me radically. I imagine it has for you since back in the day.
It's so different. I mean, my son works for me now, and once a week I'm like, "Hey man, be safe out there." 'Cause I'll look at where he's going. I'll be like, "That looks a little steep." Do you might not have to get on the 2-story portion to do what you need to do. So I mean, yeah, it's just completely different.
Yeah. So in all the falls, you never obviously took any major injuries?
Oh yeah, yeah, broken ankle, broke a broken arm. Yeah, I had a few.
Okay.
They were all after I was working for myself though.
That's funny. So
Yeah.
tell me about that then. So you worked with your dad for a while. Did you end up you didn't take over his company? What ended up happening?
No, it was one of the hardest days of my life. I had to go sit down in the kitchen, with my mom and dad and tell them that, I needed to do my own thing. It was tough. That was hard, hard, hard. It was so good though for our relationship. Like we didn't need to work together. My dad is a good man. He's just not easy to work for. And yeah, when you got 2 people that's hotheads and he'd start throwing stuff and, yeah, I'd wanna throw back, but I couldn't, and yeah, it was 100% the best thing from my life and his as well, yeah, but we still have
Was
a good
there
relationship.
That's fantastic. Was there a transition period? Was he upset with you right away, or would he also think it was a good thing?
My dad doesn't talk a lot, so he didn't show emotions of any kind, but it didn't seem like it seemed to bother him any, but he's not the type that would have let me know about that, I guess, um, but he supported me, I think, 100%. I think he supported me, and I think he's proud of me today.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is proud of you today, Luke. You built an incredible business and you did it the right way, which we're going to get into a little bit. Um, so you said you weren't doing sales, but obviously you start your own business and now you got to start selling, right? I mean, now you're in the home talking to homeowners, trying to convince them why you're a better contractor. Tell me about that.
I mean, I went out and tried to do it all myself in the beginning. Eventually, had to find some guys. I put a crew together, so we're all working together. But I didn't. Where I came from, I didn't understand a person could work on the business, not in the business. And so I'm out there putting roofs on all day, and I'm coming home out in the evenings, dirty, sweaty, and walking into homes. And because I'd get a call out of the yellow pages, and I'd walk into somebody's home, I'd say this. I'd slide a piece of paper across the table and be like, "Give me a call if you'd like to do it." Like, I was scared to death to even ask them, "Would you like to do this job?" I mean, it was so uncomfortable for me. So, yeah, it was the bare minimum, as cheap as I could be just to make sure that I had work, and, um, I had so much to learn, from that, but
Was there an experience like there's a specific experience for me when I would say when I became a salesperson. Um, do you have one when you started like you made that shift? And for me, I can just tell you for me, I was doing the same thing as you. I had a '82 Chevy blue pickup truck that used a Power Wagner to spray paint it. It was awful. All my tarps and wheelbarrows and shit in the back of back of the rig. I had my own ladder rack that I made welded out of steel. I couldn't afford a nice ladder rack. So I personally didn't think that at the time Infinity Roofing had any real value over its competition at the time. So I didn't know what I would be even selling on, right? We all sold Certainty shingles or Owens Corning or whatever it would be. And it's like we're all putting the same roof on. So like the value that I thought I brought was fairly minimal. Even actually maybe even less at the time because I didn't have these fancy lettered trucks and the billboards and stuff. And so I thought of myself as a lower quality contractor. And so I would sneak up. I would literally sneak up like you do with my Office Depot estimates and sneak them into the mailbox, and then I would leave, and hopefully they call me back. And
yeah.
a lot of times they would because I'd be the cheapest guy. And it wasn't until I didn't win a job. I spent some time with a lady, and she's like, it looks good, but I'll call you back. And of course, it was like zero pressure. Didn't ask for the sale, and she called me back, but it wasn't for a few months. And when she called me back, I thought she was calling back to hire me, but she was calling back to tell me that she got ripped off. And I
Mm.
said, okay. And she's like, Josh, I feel terrible. I wouldn't even make this call, but I felt like you're an honest, trustworthy guy. You're a Marine. You think you can help me? And I said, sure, no problem. So I drove back to her house, and she proceeds to give me the contract, which was more expensive than what I was going to charge her, which is terrible, right? So I did a terrible job on my part. And then a bunch of pictures from a neighbor, they had run the felt from the ridge. They had walked up to the ridge line and dropped the felt and ran it down from the vertically. So they didn't run it horizontally. They didn't put any ice and water on the roof. They didn't stagger the shingles the right way. It leaked the first time it rained. They didn't put a chimney flashing on. It was like all kinds of stuff. And I started getting like this. I started getting mad. I wasn't mad at her. I was mad at myself because I felt in some way I'd let that happen. And later that day, I ran an appointment, and I went into the customer's house, and same story, right? I didn't want to push. And so I just said, here's our price. And then she's like, okay, I'll call you back. And then I got this visceral feeling that was like, no, you're not calling me back. You're going to buy from me today because I know that I'm going to do a great fucking job for you and nobody else will, or at least nobody at the time would. And I think I said something like, it will be a disservice if I can't convince you that I'm the right person to do this job. I showed her pictures of the previous job that I had just left, and she bought a roof from me. And it was that day moving forward that I go, it's incumbent upon me as a good contractor to show that customer I'm the right contractor. So, I mean, I know it's a bit of a long-winded story, but that for me really changed my evolution because it wasn't about, I always thought of sales as like a kind of a slimy, a way to obscure the truth and a way to convince somebody to do something they don't want to do. But after that, it was the opposite. I needed to convince a customer that I was the right person because I knew we were the right guy.
What a great story. Look, that's, your story is so much better than mine. But it's such a great story. Like, for me, it was just, it was 15 to 20 years ago. I'm in Minneapolis at a conference, and Owens Corning would send us out these things, and Rodney Webb was there. And, Rodney's got some great things. I mean, there's some things that he talked to us about that are, it still resonates in my brain, but he was going around the room, and I messed up and asked a question. You don't ask a question in there without you're getting it at that point, but it's what I needed at that time. And he's like, "Why do you do that?" And he was asking about what we charge and different things. And he's like, I was like, "I feel like I'm ripping people off if I charge what I'm hearing these other guys charge." And he said, "Do you believe, you're helping the customer? Do you believe in what you do?" I'm like, "Absolutely, I do." And at the end of the day, there's a balance between ripping people off and believing in yourself that, like, this is the only way I can give you the right job at the right price and be here 20 years from now to service you and have everything in place to protect you throughout the process. We see it every day. We go out there and and we fight that battle of being a scrupulous contractor. And unfortunately, I mean, you see all the guys out there without insurance, without, 1099 and all their guys, and the guys supply all their own tools, all their own equipment, and they have nothing invested in this job at all. And when something happens, they're gone. Um, and we look like the bad guys because we came in $2,000 higher than somebody else. What's your thoughts about that?
And so I get asked often, Luke, I'm sure you probably do too, our mission statement. I mean, our vision is to rid the world of unscrupulous contractors, or we can soften up, save our communities from these unscrupulous contractors, of which there are a lot. Now, there are a lot of good contractors out there as well, but it's hard for a homeowner to discern the difference between the two by one salesperson or by a website, right? How do you differentiate them, or what? I mean, like I have my ideas on what I think of an unscrupulous contractor is, but like, what do you think of when you think of unscrupulous contractors, or what have you gone against in the past, or as a sales guy, where you're like, this company is not a good company? Like, what are the reasons why?
Well, number one, I mean, like when I think of it all starts here for me. It's, do you care about people? And like so many people out there today, I know you didn't, Josh. You did not go into business to make money. You went into business to help people. And like you look around and it takes you about 20 seconds to find out, is this guy here to make money or is he here to help me? Like, you can smell it, you can read it. This is the key. I don't know how you find it. That's how we that's how we help people. If we can figure out how to help them understand, does this person really care about me, or are they cared about their commission? Are they cared about their profit? Where do we get to the point where we really understand that, and how can we help customers do that? I want to help customers do that. I want your help. What do you think?
I kind of distill it down, it seems to me, into kind of maybe three buckets. I would say that unscrupulous contractors are typically very transactional. They tend to be dishonest in the way they propose estimates and the way they do business, and they tend to be unreliable. So I think from an unscrupulous contractor, really, they treat every homeowner like a transaction, not like a responsibility. So when
Mm,
we get a lead, when we go out to a customer's house, we treat that as we are out there to solve that customer's problems, and oftentimes more than just the roof, right? Some people give me relationship issues that they have had, as if you're a sales guy and you live in the home. And you're out there to work with the customer to help solve their problems. These unscrupulous guys, really, they try to maximize profit on every individual job, not thinking about future referrals, not thinking about lifetime value of the customer. And that mindset, that transactional mindset, leads them often to do dishonest things.
mm,
And, you know, the leader in the room sets the weather, as Jay, our CEO, likes to say. But people are going to follow that leader. And that is what Jocko Willing calls the commander's intent, right? If the leader in the building is solely focused on transactional profit per job, that will lead everybody underneath him to do things which often create problems. So, and a lot of that leads into dishonesty, right? So, I think a lot of unscrupulous contractors are dishonest insofar as they're not looking to build trust like you and I are. They're looking to manufacture that trust just long enough to get paid.
yep.
And they in a home, the salespeople sell on what I call, what is really perceived value instead of real value. They use like confusion and complexity to their advantage with somewhat naive or homeowners that have a lot of credulity. So I'll tell you a story. There was a competitor in my market who is now very small because they've gone backwards, thank God, because they were an unscrupulous one. But I think I may have told you this story before, but I was selling siding to this homeowner. Stop me if you've heard this. I was selling siding to this homeowner. It was a vinyl siding house in a nice neighborhood, but homeowner calls me back and says, Josh, I loved you and I don't want to go with you, but I talked to this other firm and I'm going to go with them. And I said, oh, if you don't mind me asking, what's the reason? Well, they have a proprietary siding, they told me. I said, this is interesting. I've heard of the seamless steel siding, and I'm like, oh, is it steel siding? Like, no, it's vinyl siding. I'm like, oh, proprietary vinyl siding. I was like, that's okay. I said, tell me more. Like, I'm curious to know. Like, just for my edification, can you help me in my business? Oh, absolutely. This siding actually has notches in it that allow for the vinyl to move on the house. I said, all vinyl siding has that. She's like, no. This one has special. It's these oval notches. And I said, ma'am, if I nailed vinyl siding directly to your wood, it would all warp. And so this salesperson just completely tried to confuse the customer to their advantage, to try to sell the job for twice what I was charging, and the customer almost bought it. And so there's just this level, I would say, of dishonesty, often caused by confusion and strong sales pressure tactics that don't bring real value. And then the last one I would say is, obviously, Luke, you know this in our business, is just unreliability. It's
Yep.
like these guys show up when they want to show up. They work long enough to get the paycheck, and then you get the tail light guaranteed. And actually, more worse than that, I would say, is that a lot of the there's a lot of surprises that happen on a job, and I would say that if surprises are common, it's not a surprise. It's a business tactic or a plan. Change orders are a big piece of our business. Everybody hates them. You see them in home builds. You see them in construction projects. You shouldn't see them a lot in roofing. Not a lot in siding. Some because there's some hidden stuff. But oftentimes they'll do low quality or poor quality inspections, and then they'll use that change order as a profit center because once you have your roof opened, like there's nothing you can do, right? It's like
Mhm.
you're gonna pay the bill. So I would say those three things are really what matter, or what you see over the 20 plus years I've been in business, and all the different competitors out there. And yeah, that's the way I think about it.
I love it. Yeah, that's good advice. I think transparency is a key. I mean, you're talking about it right there. I mean, just be clear, be transparent. Let people know, what is this going to cost? What am I getting? What's the warranty? Are you going to be here for how many years to stand behind it? Are you really going to stand behind it? What is this warranty? People, the industry now, everybody's like, well, I've got a 5-year warranty. I've got a 15-year warranty. I got a 50-year warranty. Oh yeah, I've got a 50-year warranty. Like, it's only as good as whatever comes out of their mouth. I mean, it's, I just weeding through the warranty information is just so hard for a customer. I wished we could come up with a way for them to understand clearly that, I mean, like, I'm a trusting person. When someone comes out and gives me information about a warranty, I'm going to lean towards trusting them. I'm probably not going to go on Google and pull up this long document and read through it and find on page 3 that it's not exactly what they told me it was.
Well, yeah, and it's page 50 sometimes, right? And that's actually interesting you say that, because I used to run a radio ad a long time ago that said 9 out of 10 brand new roofs can't pass a simple manufacturer warranty inspection. Call me and I'll prove it. And people would call, they'd be pissed off. They'd be like, I hate your ads are stupid, but I'm going to call you anyways and try to waste your time. And then I would show up and I would show them in the documentation. Air Vent would have a study on ventilation in attic space in a certain climate, and so you need X amount of ventilation, top and bottom. And then the homeowner would pull out the quotes, and I would say, this quote doesn't meet building code. So if you look at their $30,000 roof quote and their fancy paper warranty, which is a one-page sell sheet that's like stars, this is the 19-star warranty pledge, fancy shit. On the bottom, it says, obviously it needs to comply to manufacturer installation specifications and building code. Well, if it doesn't meet building code, there's no warranty, right? So that's a big issue. We see it, and GAF did a study that said 9 out of 10 brand new roofs are not ventilated properly. So if they're not ventilated properly, they're not warranting them.
Yep.
So yeah, you see that, and I would say one of the great parts about being, not to tout IHS, but one of the great parts is that you have clear violations of warranty, not building code compliant, not ventilated right, not the right products installed. Then you have kind of the perfect way to install the roof, and then you have the gray area, which is real life construction, which happens all over the world, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes the manufacturer didn't call out a spec for that particular installation, or there's some way that it might deviate. Because we have the clout, because we're the size that we are, that gray area goes to zero, right? If there's an issue with something, because we do so much business and we have such a great partnership and relationship with these vendors, they take care of the problem. I'll give you a perfect example. We were doing a roof. We did 2 roofs side by side. We did 2 premium. I can't remember the product. I think it was either Certainty premium shingles or Zones Corning, top of the line shingles on both houses. And one of them looked beautiful and the other one looked awful. It was a black roof and you could see the bundle pattern.
Yep.
And it wasn't an installation error. It was they said it was a dye or an oil issue in the bundles. And over about a year, that should like normalize. And I'm like, this customer just paid $50,000 for a roof. I'm not making them wait a year with a checkered striped roof. And they said, no problem, tear it off. We tore it off the next day and replaced it. If we didn't have those relationships, technically it wasn't a warranty issue. They would have to sit there and hopefully it got solved in the next year. So that's one of the benefits of joining us. Yeah.
We agree with that. Yeah, we've actually seen anything happen. It's yeah, discolored shingles, anything. It's like, man, you cannot allow that. This is customer satisfaction 101. Make this right. Let's fix it. And the manufacturers step up when they know they're dealing with good contractors like IHS. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been we weren't going to talk about this. Maybe we talk a little about AI, all this crap that's changing. You see that NVIDIA, that Jensen conference yesterday, the GTC
I did
conference?
not. No, I didn't. Tell me about it. Is this you talking about the NVIDIA stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, was it NeoBot or NeoClaw?
Nemo. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Nemo Claw. Yeah, they're trying try to replicate or pull in OpenClaw with some security stuff. I've
yeah.
got my OpenClaw jamming for me right now, doing all kinds of research on investments and unscrupulous business owners and all kinds of stuff behind the scenes.
And
It,
think about that. I'm a dumb redneck from the middle of the country over here, and like it took me minutes to pick this stuff up, and it's amazing what you can do with this technology. And you either have to get on board or get left behind. I think with this stuff.
1,000%. This is why, Luke, you are a strong entrepreneur and a hell of a business owner. We talk about like the founders and they can just sniff out success and understand where to be looking. We were at our SLS conference last week, which is our strategic leadership summit. All of our leadership teams across the country and in Canada come down. I think there was like 130, 150 people there. And I did a quick little half-hour AI demonstration on some of the models and some of the stuff we're working on, which is great. And it was crazy because I asked the room, I'm like, what level of competency do you believe you have? Are you using these LLMs as a proxy for Google? It's like everybody raised their hand, like, okay, using it to automate anything. It's like, most people didn't raise their hand. And then it was like, who's using it right now to automate workflows and OpenClaw? And you're the only guy, the only redneck in the room, Luke, did raise his hand. And I think the whole IHS was just shocked that you had this level of competency in technology. But like you said, it's not that hard. You just got to start doing it.
It almost tells you what to do. That's the beautiful thing about AI. Like when you start into it, it's telling you what to do. Like if you prompt it and say, "What? Help me here. I'm stuck." Most of
Hmm.
it can help you.
And you ask great questions. So that's why it helps you.
Yeah, that's right.
How do you think this is going to evolve? You think this is going to allow the better contractors to rise to the top? Do you think this is going to allow unscrupulous contractors to be more obscure? I mean, how do you think this might change our business?
I could see AI letting the better contractors rise to the top, but at the same time, it doesn't require a lot of work or a lot of money. Um, if that's the case, anybody can do it, and anybody can look like a scrupulous contractor at any time. I think AI uh, could make it worse. I think that it's going to automate a lot of stuff. Yeah, I can't tell you. I think at the end of the day, it's all about what do we do when we get there. I think it could make us all look a lot the same before we have contact with a customer. What do you think?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the best and the worst thing about our industry, Luke, is the fact that there's a low barrier to entry. It's a good thing for you and I back when we were 18, 19 years old. We weren't sure what we were going to do with our lives. We could fire up a business. We could go start taking customers out of harm's way, relatively easy. We didn't need a bunch of money to start the business. We didn't need there wasn't huge investments. We didn't have to be super sophisticated from either a business or an aptitude standpoint from an installation side, which is that could be a good thing, right? But then alternatively to that is the fact that it is a low barrier to entry. A lot of unscrupulous people come into the space and immediately start taking advantage of homeowners. And so I don't know, I think it might allow a little gamification. A lot of people with Google have understood SEO ranking, how much that matters. And so they spend a lot of time on Google reviews and stuff. I think with AI search, it's going to be out scanning more than just Google. There's going to be
Mm,
Yelp and Reddit and more resources there. So hopefully poor reputations can't be buried. That
mm,
would be the
okay.
best thing,
Let's
that it could go out and dig up all those things that these shitty contractors try to hide.
I can
And
see.
actually, we should actually pivot to this because you wanted to talk briefly about storm, because storm has always been interesting in our space. And you guys had a storm last year that in a market that doesn't normally get storms. And so you got to see what this looks like.
Mm, that's so true. Yeah, man. Yeah, I was out in the field actually working the storm, and, that's when you really start to find out, like, what are we up against here? How has this even happened that this industry has went this far this direction? I'm not saying everybody's bad contractors. I'm not saying they're all unscrupulous, but when you hear the things that are going on, it's just like dog eat dog out there. It's just everybody's bad mouthing everybody, and like, where do we get to the point where we go and sell ourselves and just tell them who we are and what we're good at? And but man, I'd go out. I'll just give you a short example, and it happened multiple times. I'd go out and look at a home for damage. I'd find roofing, say some gutter damage and some window damage or something. Meet the adjuster. We agree on what it should take to fix this job. I sit down with a homeowner. Homeowner says, "Look, I don't have, this kind of money. Insurance gonna pay for all of it, but, I'd like not to do these gutters." And it may be, and I explained to him, "Oh, if you don't do the gutters, you're gonna, lose your depreciation for that one line item, but you keep the original, what they gave you for it." And they would understand it. We'd get done with the job, and we'd submit everything in to get them the rest of their money, and the adjuster would call me and be like, "Why did you not submit it for the full amount?" Like, "'Cause we didn't do the whole job." He'd be like, "Well, I don't understand." It's like, "What don't you understand?" Like, just you owe them all the, depreciation other than that for the gutters. And they'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll get that out." The reason I sound like the crazy person is because I'm doing things differently than everybody out there. The other contractor would have told that homeowner, we're going to submit the whole thing. We're not going to do the gutters, but we're going to submit it all and we're all going to make a bunch more money. And everybody's doing that. It's like nobody's doing the right thing. And doing the right thing is just like we look like the odd person because nobody is doing the right thing.
There was a storm. Yeah, that is very true. I first got introduced to storm work probably 15 years ago in two facets. One is there was a storm in Madison, Wisconsin, and this is when I understood what a sit was, I guess is what the industry used to call it, which is when a storm chasing company leases or borrows a local roofing company's name for credibility and pays them a percentage of each job. And this was a big storm, so they came in, and these small business owners ended up making a bunch of money, but then lost their business because of the warranty claims and all the issues that they had after. And so the storm company comes in, leases the name, takes a bunch of profit off the table, and then gets out of town and leaves all the burden with the local brand. And that was just a disaster. That same company who did that ended up working a big storm in Kentucky. And I had a friend of mine who at the time was running a residential business, but we were also a commercial roofing business together. And the resi business, he was just chasing storms. He was installing. And we were having drinks one night, Luke, and this would make you sick to your stomach, though. We're having drinks one night, we're having dinner, and I'm like, man, how's that stuff going down in Kentucky? He's like, yeah, we're doing four or five roofs a day. He goes, I've got 50 guys down there. So I'm like, wow, 4 or 5 roofs a day. So how are you guys doing that? These are 30 square houses. He goes, all you do is strip the shingles off, you leave the felt, and you zip the shingles right back over the top. Keep all
Mhm.
the existing venting, all the existing drip edge flashings, everything stays. I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, we reuse the felt. We only take the felt off at the homeowner's home.
Yep.
Like,
100%.
so
It's
I
the
couldn't,
norm.
I couldn't, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is unbelievable that this goes on. And at scale, I mean, they were doing hundreds of roofs.
You know why they get to do that, Josh? Is because everybody else is doing it. Like, when everybody else is doing it, nobody knows it's the wrong thing to do. Um, yeah, everybody in our storm last year that we competed against, it seemed like, was telling the customers, "You don't have to pay your deductible." We walk in and say, "We'll get this taken care of for you, and all you owe is your deductible." And they're like, "What? I don't wanna pay $1,000 for a $20,000 roof. This guy's gonna save me $1,000." And it's like, do you realize that's insurance fraud? That's illegal. You gonna owe this money. Do you go to the doctor and argue about a $50 copay and which doctor you use? It's just it amazes me.
Tell me, Luke. So, how do you compete the right way? Why is Skywalker winning? Why are you guys doing it the right way? What's if a contractor asks you, how are you scrupulous? What is it that you guys do?
You said it earlier, like, it starts at the top and it trickles down. It's our core values. It's like, man, when we're out there and it starts at the top, our core values, our number one core value is serving hearts. It's like, are we out here to serve people? Are we out here truly serving people? And if we are, we're going out there to help them through this storm, and we walk in there and like, we're sorry that you have this damage. We're not here to take advantage of this damage that you have. We're here to help you, and in return, we'll probably make a profit. But the main thing is, can we help you? And it's just being upfront, being transparent, um, trying to get the customers to understand that they really need to partner with somebody they can trust, whether it's Skywalker Roofing or somebody else, whatever it is. Find somebody that you trust, and then sit down with them and let them handle this claim in the insurance situation. Everybody's like, "I gotta get 3 quotes. I gotta get 3 quotes." My opinion in insurance world, find somebody you trust to handle this claim from start to finish. That is the most important thing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I honestly don't think it's really hard. People ask you. I think it's in fact pretty simple, and we've talked about it a lot. But I mean, be transparent, do what you say, and stand behind it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And you know, um, Jay likes to talk about the red ocean and blue waters. Red oceans are commodity businesses where there's not a lot of niche, unique attributes. And we're kind of in a red ocean. We all sell very similar products. We all install the roofs relatively the same way, and there's a lot of us out there. But in my opinion, in the long run, I think it's integrity. It really is the only competitive advantage that compounds. And when I started early, it was I want to be very price competitive. I want to run a good operational business. I want to do what's right always. And I believe that that would lead to a large referring network of customers that really understood who we were and what we were trying to solve for. And that has come to fruition. That has come to fruition across all 25 of our brands because we all operate in a very similar context. And that integrity compounding is what is for me is what I think what makes IHS so unique and what makes us exceptional.
I don't disagree. Staying local is important too on the storm. On the storm side, I would you need to stay with local contractors. Those guys that come in 3 states away, um, you're in trouble.
What do we miss, Luke? Anything you want the audience to know?
Um, let's see.
For
I don't
for
know.
those who don't know what it feels like to punch another guy in the face and knock him down, does that feel pretty good?
Oh, it feels real good. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Ah, like every once in a while, I still want to do it. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah.
We
Uh,
get you back in
yeah,
the ring.
one of the best feelings in the world. I put it right up there with having a child or all the other stuff is walking from the locker room to the cage. That is top of the list. If anybody's like ever probably free falled or jumped off a mountain or done whatever crazy stuff, that walk in is you won't forget it.
That's such an interesting juxtaposition, which is you, soft-spoken, ethical, high-quality guy, cares about people, and then the cage fighter Luke, who just smashes and beats the shit out of people. It's such a
Yeah, I've changed a lot. I still could and would, because when you realize that's a sport, that's different. But growing up I was not that person. Yeah, when it comes to, I learned a lot, Josh, what it means to be a man, and it's like it's so different than what I saw and heard and knew when I was a young man. It was like who had the biggest truck, who had the biggest roofing company, who could beat somebody up, who could drink the most beer. And then later you start to learn like that's not a man. Like it didn't, he might be pretty cool, but at the same time, it's like, what is a man? It's like it's the guy that comes home to his wife instead of going to the bar at night. It's a guy that spends the time throwing ball with his son, instead of going and running around in the woods in his truck getting drunk. And it's like, there's so many things that you learn. It's like, this is what a man really looks like. And unfortunately, I didn't, I had to learn that the hard way. So
I
but
think that's so well. I think that's so well said, Luke. I think that you said it looks cool. It looks cool for 15 to maybe 21-year-olds, but after you're a bit older, a bit more seasoned, a bit wiser, you look back at that and it's just foolish. It's people that don't understand the world, that don't understand what it means to have a family and to live with real virtue and real values in your life. I look at people like that as desperate, as reaching out for help and not understanding what they want to be in the world. So anyways, I think we got deep there, but Luke,
no,
it's been awesome, man. I appreciate you spending time today, talking to us and talking to the audience here. You got a great story. You're a great human. You're a friend, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
thank you, Josh. Appreciate your time, buddy.